Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, talking Florida football, getting us all set for Gators spring football coming up in just about a week. We got David Waters on the line from Gators Breakdown, and this is the position. If you want to get into a debate in the offseason, DBU, LSU, Florida, Miami, maybe in yesteryear, Ohio State. I ran a poll a few weeks ago. I don't even know how it turned out. Does it really matter? It's an interesting topic, but Florida's going to make their claim, and rightfully so, to that mantle.
Mark, any of those fan bases can spin it in a way for their favor, right? I mean, that's pretty much how it goes. Any one of those fan bases can really pick out some kind of metric where it says, okay, Florida's the best, or Ohio State's the best, or LSU's the best. So, and it really is only between those three.
And at any point, you wonder, okay, why did you pick out 1994, or why did you just select 2003 as being
Right.
the year that you go back in the NFL draft,
Right.
or whatever the case might be. So what matters for you and Gators fans is, of course, 2020, and what you got coming back, and who you like out of the last couple of classes that may need to step up this fall.
Well, Kyrie Elam's going to step right in for C.J. Henderson and be that rock. I mean, Kyrie Elam was one of, if not the best, besides Stingley out there at LSU, one of the better true freshman cornerbacks out there, proving it in the SEC. He had a really, really good Orange Bowl there, made the interception late in that game to basically salt that game away for the Gators there. So Kyrie Elam going to step right in and be that opposite of Marco Wilson. Kyler Elam, Mark, a little more physical, and I like that about him. He can stay strong in the run game. If running back's coming towards him, he's not going to shy away, or he can missile back there and tackle a running back coming out for a swing pass, or a wide receiver catching a screen. Kyler Elam's going to get in there and go try and make that tackle. So living up to the billing that he had coming in, so it's going to be a really good combination. I don't expect much drop off, maybe a little even improvement for that secondary as Marco Wilson. Didn't necessarily have the return last year that we thought he would, and that is why he come back this year. I think out there at the outside cornerback, he tore his knee up the year before that. Don't know. He didn't necessarily look like the same Marco Wilson last year that we saw before. So will he return to form? And Kyrie Elam is somebody that definitely can count on there at that cornerback position there. So it's a really strong 1-2 punch there for Florida. And Florida likes what they really have in that class that came in last year with Kyrie Elam. You got Jadon Hill and Chester Kimbrough there as well. Chester Kimbrough can be another guy who fills in at that starred nickel role who can get a little physical as well. Jadon Hill backing up Elam and Marco Wilson with the way offenses are now with 4 wide receivers on the field. He'll get his chances plenty of times as well there at the cornerback position there. So Florida's got 2 really, really strong cornerbacks I think they can count on, and one being really physical in Kyrie Elam. So I think Gator fans feel pretty confident about the outside cornerback position. The biggest question for the Gator fans right now is what happened to safety. Yeah, the safety position's got to be improved. They had about 4 guys there last year in Juwan Taylor, Donovan Steiner, Brad Stewart, Sean Davis. They all had their moments last year where they did some good things. Donovan Steiner was instrumental in the Auburn game. Had some big plays in that Auburn game. Sean Davis with an interception in that Auburn game as well. Brad Stewart did some really, really good things in 2018, and we thought that would come around and mean an improvement for 2019. He didn't live up to that billing in 2019 there. So the player that struggled Mark a lot last year in Trey Dean, he played that nickel star role. He struggled a lot last year in that role. You go back to the Georgia game, he got picked on 2 years in a row. He had played the outside cornerback when Marco Wilson got hurt in 2018, got picked on versus Georgia a bit in that game. Georgia found him again in that nickel star role this past year there. So we read the tea leaves a little bit. You may see him at safety that's coming up here. Maybe more of his natural position. There's very athletic type of kid. Maybe he finds his role there at that safety position where Florida struggled a bit last year. Maybe he gets into that rotation there. Rashad Torrance is one true freshman to watch out for this spring with the struggles at safety. Can they can a true freshman come in there and make his mark? With the struggles there, he's going to have his opportunity to come in and make a spot for himself. So that's the way to safety. That's the names to look out for. Everybody knows the names. If you follow Florida, you know the names there. But there's something has got to improve there to be more of a playmaking group and not a. They all have their strengths. They all have their weaknesses. The weaknesses are glaring. At times, Donovan Steiner, pretty okay in pass coverage, but a dynamic playmaker gets in front of him. Mark, he has trouble breaking down and trying to make a play and tackling that playmaker. So I mentioned Brad Stewart not improving from 2018 to 2019. Sean Davis, probably the best playmaker back there, just not on a consistent basis. Gives up some big coverages at times there as well. So the safety position and up the linebacker position, as I said, not really a lot of experience there. A lot of people want to point at defensive tackle was maybe a part of concern for this defense. I don't necessarily see it that way with at least a frontline group. Tadero Slayton had a big end of the year last year where he was even contemplating going to the NFL because there was some draft reports coming out toward the end of last year where teams were kind of starting to key on him a little bit as far as kind of maybe being a steal of the draft. He decided to come out because he was having such a strong end of the season. We need to see more of it, and I think he knew that too. We need to see it on a more consistent basis for a whole season there. Elijah Collins should come back from concussion injuries that he had in preseason camp last year. Didn't play at all last year. And then Kyrie Campbell was one guy I'm looking at, senior. He's going to be a leader on that defensive front. You got Gervon Dexter. Won't take part in spring with 5-star for the Gators along the defensive tackle. Won't be in the spring, but will be in the fall. So I think Florida, their frontline talent at defensive tackle, Marlon Dunlap out there as well. They lose Adam Schuler from last year. So I like the first 2-3 guys there at defensive tackle. They do have to build some depth there.
So if you're talking about a top 10 to 15 defense in the nation last year, that would be my estimation. What do you think?
Yeah.
And you lose your two best playmakers in terms of getting into the backfield.
There you go. That's the thing. But when has Todd Grantham ever had a really trouble finding a pass rusher? That's just kind of his staple. You go back 2 years ago, who had heard of Ja'Kai Polite? Nobody. Here's Ja'Kai Polite in the backfield making play after play after play. Jabari Zuniga, Jonathan Grenard this past year. Zuniga was banged up. We didn't get the Zuniga that we expected to get because he was so banged up. But he showed out at the NFL Combine this past week with the type of player that Gator fans knew he could be. But Jonathan Grenard comes in as a transfer from Louisville. Yeah, we thought he'd be okay. We thought he'd be this, an okay pass rusher. Ends up being one of the best at the position in the country. Jonathan Grenard was everywhere last season. He didn't really get enough credit for what he did in stopping opponent's run game as well. So, but you do lose those. You do lose those guys. So does the 5-star transfer you got from Georgia, Brenton Cox, last August. Can he come in and make an impact there? But he can't wait to play in Jacksonville against the Bulldogs, transferring from there. Mamu Diabate, as I brought up, is that guy who can go play linebacker, I think, if he needs to, but he can play that. As going back, 4 sacks last year as a true freshman. Can he build upon that? Chris Bogle, Andrew Chatfield, 2 young guys we didn't get to see a whole lot of last year, but very highly recruited. Will they emerge as the pass rushers? Jeremiah Moon, a player who got injured toward the end of last year, up and down kind of last year, but I think more kind of like that Ja'Kai Polite mold, up and down till Todd Grantham gets a hold of him in a full season. So, Mark, with Todd Grantham as defensive coordinator, getting sacks is not necessarily an issue. The issue is when you get those sacks. They've had 1 sack versus Georgia the last 2 years. 1. And that's been the difference in the game. Haven't been able to pressure Jake Fromm. He goes out there and lights up Florida 2 years in a row. LSU this past year, they weren't able to get to Joe Burrow. Yes, I know, like I said, Jabari Zuniga injured. A healthy Zuniga make 1 play in that game that makes a difference? Maybe. But it's the big games where those sacks haven't necessarily shown up. So getting to the quarterback, overall, not a problem. You just got to do it in the games that really, really count.
Yeah, the metrics tell you that even though the sacks might be overrated, obviously, if you're getting 50 sacks in a season, you're also pressuring the quarterback at a rate that's comparable to a team that's getting half as many sacks. You're getting twice as many pressures as well, all things being equal. And number two, if you get a sack in any given drive, you're going to stop that drive like 90% of the time. Throwing a team behind the sticks to a 2nd and 18, a 3rd and 18 kind of play, you're going to win that drive and get off the field almost every time.
Yeah, Marky, and like you said 50 sacks. Florida had 49 sacks on the year, none versus Georgia, none versus LSU. They had 10 in the opener versus Miami, 8 in the season ender versus FSU. So 18 of the sacks were right there. But in the middle of the season, and it was 2 years in a row, in the middle of the season, those sack numbers for whatever reason go down. So they've got Todd Grantham can't go into this Georgia game next year and not be able to pressure the quarterback again. I mean, that has to be fixed.
And to extend your point, you don't get 10 or 8 against those teams, but you get 2 or 3.
Right.
And you stop another drive or you stop 2 other drives.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, LSU, that was a close, it was a 14-point win for LSU, but the game was closer than that. It was a 7-point win for Georgia, so a sack here, a sack there may be the difference in the game. Of course, you get revisionist history, and you start a chain reaction there if you get one kind of play. So who knows? But that's just how close those sacks can come.
Gators Breakdown, people. Join David and the guys right here on YouTube or on your favorite audio platform. It's a must for Florida football fans, for SEC fans, and if you follow college football and want to keep up with the major programs, I suggest it right there, as well as, of course, locking it in here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Best discussion, debate, and analysis across the board. Thanks, David. We appreciate you stopping by and laying down the knowledge, as always.
Thanks, Mark.